Hey everyone, welcome to the third live stream for this challenge game. I've got quite a bit of work done since last time. I've got a lot of the level designed out. I'll play it from the start and everyone can see whatever I'm up to with it. So we've added a splash screen. And it actually plays the correct scene. Right. So we've added a splash screen and that nice little fade in and out. That'll happen between any layout changes now. I've added the functionality to the menu. So you can go backwards and forwards between menus. Nothing in them at the minute, but the functionality's all there. We've got a play button that takes you to the level. You've got the bullets working last time. I've added these player respawn zones in, so now when the player falls into the fire, there's a little fire effect and then they respawn there. And while they're flashing, they won't be able to take any more damage. Other things that will be added: when you collect an egg, it fires across up to the UI up at the top, which the UI is now also counting the score that the player gets. And also at the top left there's the health displayed. Xanderwood had supplied me with some dice, which I couldn't think of anything else to use them in the game for, so I've used them as health counter, so every time you die that goes down. So that's pretty much where we're up to now. So today I'm going to, just a short lunchtime stream, I'm going to do a bit of work on the enemies in the game, because at the moment I did some basic work to get the enemies moving, but I need to get them spawning on the level. Then when they fall through the bottom of the screen, I'm going to make it so that they then respawn at the top, but they're a bit faster, so they're a bit harder. The other thing that's sort of been implemented, I've implemented a present that you can collect, which will spawn after 10 enemies have been killed, just to give you a points boost, because you won't actually score anything for killing the enemies. So we'll make a start on adding the enemy spawn into the game. So we'll add a sprite, which will be where the enemies can be spawned from. Call that enemy spawner. We shall add that to the scene. We shall make that 32 wide by 64. Sure. Give that a fill colour. And just so I remember what it is in the scene, I'll just quickly write enemy spawn or enemy spawn. Hi Xanderwood, are you okay? Oh, just stopping by for a quick look at the progress. Did you catch the first couple of minutes when I was going through it, or do you want me to go through it again now? Just working today on getting the enemies spawning in the game. Have you had a good weekend? Have you been up to much? You missed it. Right, I'll give you a quick tour. I'm just doing a quite short stream today. I'm just got to try and do a few in my lunch hours. So we've got a splash screen which has got all three of us names on it. So I'll play it from there. Got that little effect of fading in and out with the circle when you go between anywhere. Got placeholders in for the high score tables and how to play sections, which at the minute I've got nothing there. Got a start button, play can fire bullets, The levers, obviously, if you've seen before, generate the eggs. These PR things, they just play a respawn points. They'll be hidden once the game plays properly. But when you fall in the fire, you respawn at the last one that you touched. How much time is left? I've still got 15.5 hours left. I've done about 7 hours to get to this point. I've used the dice that you gave me. They're the health bar up at the top left. So when we fall in there, they're working now and reducing. When you're flashing, when you respawn, you won't be able to take damage. And if you notice then, when I collected that egg, it sort of fires a little particle, tweens the thing up to the score, and then a particle effect on the score. There's also will be presents, which I've got working, which will spawn when you've killed 10 enemies. Because the enemies themselves aren't got to score any points. So that's where we're up to. We've got pretty much full game just without enemies. So I'm just got to add those in now. I've got the basic enemy movement, it's just a case of getting them to spawn, and then when they go out of the bottom, they're going to get faster the next time, because if you don't kill them before they go through here, they'll reappear at the top, but they'll be faster, so make it harder. Nice, 24 hours, maybe too much time. Yeah, I think it probably was. It's got to give Mighty Jor a lot of time to do some music. So probably, I think probably another 3-4 hours at the top side. I'll then let him make the music, add it in, and then see what time I've got left as to whether I want to add anything else in. Probably take a while doing the how to play screen and stuff, and it might take a bit of time just getting a high score, local high score table set up. Also the eggs, you see the arrows here? There's a random chance that the egg will jump the gap, and it'll be the same for the enemies. There'll be a random chance that they either fall down or jump. It's looking great though. Cheers. Well, the looking bit's all because of you, because you drew the art, so was that a self-compliment there? Right, so we'll go into the game, and we'll add an event. And we'll leave that aside. We'll have a global variable that sets the rate, I think. Enemy spawn rate. Actually, no, we're going to do that as a random number instead. So 4, that'll round the number down to a whole number. Random. And we'll do it between 2 and 7 seconds to begin with to see how that works. Nice, how are you planning on implementing the high score table? It'll probably be just something really simple, just a dictionary with 5 values in, which I'll check and just do a bubble sort on to slip the new value in if it's higher than any of them. I'm not going to be doing anything fancy like an online one or anything like that. Enemy spawner. Spawn another object, and we'll make that an enemy. And I could probably have done with doing an enemy layer, but I'll tidy that up later. Image point 1, and we'll create the hierarchy. Now that's something else that I worked out over the weekend, how these the new scene graph actually works in Construct, because before I'd set it up and I was just didn't really have an understanding of it, but now I've set things up, they've actually parented properly, so when it creates them as they actually are. It's something that had been added to Construct since I'd last used it 5 or 6 months ago, so I've not used dictionaries. If you could live stream that part, that'd be great. Yeah, sure. I've not used them for a while, but I have used them in the past, so I'm sure a quick glance over the documentation, I'll live stream that for you. I think maybe I'll be doing lunchtime streams this week and also a couple of evenings, probably tomorrow night and maybe Wednesday, but it all depends on time. I'm hoping to make it a regular thing that I stream at least 2 lunchtimes and 2 evenings between Monday and Friday. So that should now randomly create enemies at the top. I find dictionary is really useful. It's good for sort of creating a save file. Instead of having to save loads of individual variables, you can just pop them all in a dictionary and just save the one thing. Right, so enemies are spawning. I think I'm probably maybe spawning a few too many. I think it's going to get very complicated, so I'll slow that down slightly. And make it every 3 to 11 seconds. Right, so now we need to add a collider at the bottom. Well, actually, I've already got a collider there, the player collides with, so I'll make it, when the enemies collide with that, they then respawn again at the top. Right. Enemies. I've actually since last week tidied all my scripts up as well. Everything's sort of in groups now. I've also added gamepad controls. But everything's nice and neatly organised, so I don't get confused, because it was getting a bit of a mess just putting event after event. Gotta go, I'll watch the stream later today. Cheers, Xanderwood, thanks for popping by. Catch you later. So we'll add a group just to keep the enemy collisions tidy. We'll add an event here. It'll be 4 each, because actually no, it won't need to be 4 each, because it'll be picking the exact enemy when it collides. So sprites, enemies, and it collides with another object. That other object that we've got to be checking for is the fire collider at the bottom. What we're going to do is very similar to the player script, so I'll copy some of the things from there. We'll be spawning the fire death. We'll be rotating that just so that it's going upwards and not to the right. Constructs angle system, 0 degrees is to the right. A lot of engines you sort of expect it to be straight up, but constructs to the right. So if we make it 270 degrees, then the particle effects face them in the right direction. We'll then be setting the enemy to invisible, and we'll have a slight delay. We'll wait and we'll move it. And we'll copy that. We'll set it to visible. Right, I think those should be enough to get the enemy behaviours working. So on these two we will change the object to be the sprite enemy body. We want them still to be spawned at the same position. These two need to be now the enemy visuals. Hello, what are you adding today? Hi Scuffles, you okay? I'm just working on the enemies because I got everything working sort of collectible wise, but the enemies weren't there, so I've now added them to the top they should start spawning. Quite a long delay. No, maybe I've slowed it down too much now, but they'll spawn at the top. I'm just currently working on them when the collisions that happen when they get to the bottom here. They fall in the fire, and then I'm going to make them respawn at the top, but with a different animation and slightly faster, just to make it harder that if you don't kill them. I think I gave the enemies my organisation system. Yep, so I've given them a level and a speed modifier, so I'm going to make sure that when it spawns them all, it sets the level to 1 and the speed modifier to 1, and then I'll update that as they respawn. So, event enemies. Again. Sprites, enemies. Set value. Set the enemy level to 1 when they first spawn. And we'll also set the just quicker to duplicate that and change. Set the speed modifier to 1 as well. So we'll begin with a level 1 enemy and a speed modifier of 1. What I could do with doing is adding some more visuals in, because all the enemies are going to have the exact same behaviour. Well, like the angry turtles and crabs from original Mario Brothers. Yeah, that sort of thing. So we'll duplicate and then we shall grab some more of Xander's art. Grab this onto the screen to see what I'm doing better. So we've got to have 5 different enemies. We've got to have the spider, these 2 frames, then these 2 frames, these 2 and these 2. So we'll be able to get 5 levels of enemies, and then I'm going to use these sprites that Xanderwood's created for the death animation. Fall animation I've just been using very similar. And let's get the second frame. Try over that one. Might as well add all these in while I'm doing it. Free. Copy and paste that in. How did your stream go yesterday, Skeffels? Sorry I couldn't stop around for longer. the fall animation. Duplicate again on that one. That can be walk 4. I'll paste that in, and that can be the first frame of the walk again, and also the fall animation. And then we'll copy one more in for the spider, which I'm still undecided exactly how I'm going to use that. I may not use that. Actually, I'm not going to add the spider into that. I'll have that as a completely separate enemy, maybe with some slightly different behaviour. Good, thanks. Did you get very far? Prison Architect, wasn't it you were playing? It's a game I've got, but I've never actually played. That's a lot of the games that I've got. Right. The event enemies. I'm going to make it so that the enemies play the animation based on the level that they are. So I just need to change that to 1 and that to 1. And now start enemy what did I call them? Enemy level. So that should then give that, put the number of it on the end of it. So hopefully that'll change the animations. It's a while since I've used Construct, so I'm just forgetting how things work. Same, it's been on my list for a while, so I figured streaming would kickstart me playing those games. Yeah, that's a good idea, that. Work your way through your library. I think I have a problem with Streamlabs OBS because the stream got a little stuttery in places. I'm using Streamlabs, I've not noticed any problems with it, but Sticks, hey Sticks, how are you doing? How long you got left? Probably quarter of an hour, 20 minutes. It's a good game, but a little different than I expected. It was more about story between prisoners than a prison sandbox. Yeah, I thought it was more like a prison sandbox where you just build a prison and keep people happy. Perhaps it's a sandbox mode or something. Yeah, there could be. But I certainly took on some of the ideas from the next game idea. Cool. I find that we tend to, well I tend to make the games I play. So if I've been playing a platformer, I get the itch to make a platformer. But I do play a lot of retro games, so that's why I think most of my games are retro games. Right. Where's he up to? The animations, let's check. So I'm hoping this should work that if I set the enemies level to add to the level number 1, I'm hoping that that will then change the animations. I'll just spawn them a little bit quicker. Just so I can see if it's working. Well, I meant for your challenge. Before this stream, he had 15.5 hours still, so Xanderwood was in the chat earlier, and he thinks that we've probably set the length of time we need a little bit too high, because I think 24 hours I'd be pushed to use that much on this game, really. Right, I've broken something there because all the enemies are flashing on and off. Let's have a look. Which enemy? That should work. Tell you what, we'll just spawn one enemy. Add it on starter layout, and I just spawn one enemy and I'll keep track of it and see what actually happens to it when it gets to. It needs to be in a completely separate from the starter layout. It can't be another condition. I'll just move those down into there. This time we'll debug the layout. Got quite a useful built-in debugger as construct, so you can keep an eye on what's going on. So the enemy. So it's currently got an enemy level of 1, speed modifier of 1. And the current animation is walk 1, so it's playing that correctly. What sort of games do you make, Scaffolds? It's me, they're currently working on a tower defence game. I'm getting close to finishing that, so I'm looking for inspiration for my next game. Yeah, Scaffolds does some devlogs on YouTube, Sticks, if you want to stick those, check those out. It's coming on nicely, his tower defence game. I'm thinking Tycoon Simulation game, a bit like Roller Coaster Tycoon. Oh, I like Roller Coaster Tycoon. That and Theme Park. Nice, sticking it online. First one, yeah, it's surprising how fast something can be put together. Yeah, we noticed that in your stream yesterday with your Bomb Jack clone. It less than an hour you had one working. I plan on getting it on Android Play Store, Mitch. I'm using Monogame. How do you find Monogame? I've seen lots about it but never really used it. Because with Monogame, can you export to consoles as well? Right, so let's have a look at this enemy now. What's it doing? It's got a level of 2. And it's currently playing Fall 2. Playing Walk 2. So that seems to be working, so why were they flashing on and off? Let's do a system wait for 4 seconds. So let's make it kind and then they look well apart. And we will spawn another. Make it 4 seconds and I will set that straight away to level 2. So we've got 2 enemies spawned. Let's check what's happening. Theme Park was great. Yeah, that was growing up. I had an Amiga and that was one of my favourite games on the Amiga. Absolutely loved it. You looked at Monogame a wee while back. Yeah, surprisingly, I've not looked at it. I really enjoy Monogame because I get to code game engine features and gameplay. Not supported anything non-consoles, but I know cross-platform is key to Monogame. Yeah, I've been watching some YouTube devlogs. I think it's Orange Pixel. I think he doesn't use Monogame, but I think somebody's converting his games using Monogame to Switch at the moment. Xbox is meant to be easy to deploy to. One day if I ever make anything that's worth putting on a console, then if I get to that standard, maybe I should start looking at a different engine. So what have we got going? The visuals. Walk 2. Right, they're both displaying Walk 2. So why are they both doing Walk 2? For each enemy. Right, I think this may be to do with the new scene graph function that I'm using. I think before I can start playing with the actual animation, I have to pick the child. Should really get an understanding of how features work before I start trying to use them, but hey ho. Oh yes, he's got to use it for Switch. Do you usually use Godot or Construct? I started making games about nearly 7 years ago, and I've used Construct on and off for the whole period. I've tried other engines, tried Game Maker a bit, tried Unity. And I did try Godot about 2 years ago, liked it but never stuck with it. But then about 6-7 months ago I started using it for Ghost Blaster that I'm making, and decided no, I wasn't going to touch anything else for a while until I got better with it. So I am using Godot for my main project, but I still find Construct really quick and easy just to use for little challenges like this or game jams. So pick child. Pick child or pick children. Pick children. It should be the visuals. Just its own. Put that in there. So what that's doing, if my understanding is correct, it's going through each of the enemy bodies, and then if it's moving and on the floor, it's then going to pick its child and then update only its child's animation. So that's the plan. Let's see if it works. Seems to be, but that first one's not animating for some reason. So we've got what one. Oh yes, it is. It's just the mouth doesn't move on the animation. I thought all the mouths moved. So that seems to have fixed that problem. Construct looks pretty cool, good for smashing together quick prototypes. Yeah, it is, because it's got lots of built-in behaviours, so let me just find the player. Sort of have this player body and you can add behaviours to it, so I've added the platform behaviour, which has already got built in all these things that if you use default control straight away, add that to anything and you can start moving it about with the cursor keys. It's also got an 8 direction behaviour, which you can sort of limit to 8 for 2 directions, set the angle to rotate things. So I use that when on the ladders. I flick between the 2 behaviours, so when it overlaps a ladder and you're going up and down, you can only move in the 8 directions and the platform behaviour, therefore gravity is disabled, and then when you get off it flicks back to the platform behaviour. So it is great for prototyping, but also it is very powerful. You can make some very large games in it. I just find with the event system, I get a bit lost when I get in a big project. I'd rather look at code, so that's why I switched to Godot. There's been some really nice games. Yeah, there has. The last Penelope, that was a really good one. You can use either the events or JavaScript. Yeah, I don't really like JavaScript, so I'm not going to use that. Xanderwood's game of Iron Throne made on Construct. Construct. Xanderwood's game is made on Construct. I've not found anything I can't do with Construct yet. You tried a 3D game and it sticks. Because I bet you can't. And you've got to tell me about the old plugin now. You do need to be organised with the start from the events. Yeah, you do. This one I went back on Friday night after streaming twice. Everything was just one big long event, so I've sort of organised everything and commented it all, because I was just getting completely lost where everything was, but everything's now nicely commented and sort of in groups and subgroups. Right, so we've got the enemies going down. Let's now check how they're doing with when they actually reappear coming back. Let's see if they actually are upgrading their animations. Then I need to get them randomly jumping over these gaps so they don't always take the same route down. I've got the eggs doing that already when you spawn an egg. Right, yep, the animations, they're all levelling up now, so that's the level 3 enemy, it's got the purple colour. So I'm happy with that. But yeah, the eggs, some of them, they'll jump over this gap if they have enough time to roll there on the timer, like that one. And the enemies and players are all going in there. Right, I think I must have messed one of the animations up as to why that's flashing on and off. Nope, I haven't. There's some reason why that's flashing. I'll debug it and see if I can see anything. You can do 3D, 3JS. I knew you were going to say that. There's a really nice tank game made in 3D, but you wouldn't use a 2D engine in 3D anyways. No, no, definitely not, but things are possible. Right, they're not flashing on and off at the moment. Right, I have noticed that they're both disappearing when they go in the... Again, I think this is probably to do with the me not picking like that. I like this new scene graph, but I'm maybe not understanding it, but I think maybe I prefer having things as containers, where you've automatically, when you're referencing that, you're automatically referencing its own child. It seems a little bit of extra work to have to every time pick the child of what you're using. Maybe it's not the best use case for this, but yeah, not a fan of JavaScript either, no. I like TypeScript, but JavaScript, no. I've had to use it at work, but recently I've mostly been using C#. Is it game dev you do for a job, or is it more web development? I'm going to have a think how this is going to actually work, because it doesn't look like I can. Can I just pop all those down there? Will it still remember that that's what it's dealing with? And I need to make these enemies start killing the player. Yep, that looks like it's how it should work. Yep, you need to pick the instance before you get there. Right, so when it goes into fire, it's spawning the particle effect. It's setting the visuals to invisible. I'm waiting a second, and then I'm positioning it. Right, that's why it's coming out at some weird things. I'm not positioning it at the right place. It needs to be positioned at the enemy spawner. Image point X, and it's image point 1. And then we'll change that. The Y needs to be the image point 1 Y position. I don't need to wait, because as soon as it does that, I want it to be visible. Right, that should hopefully work. Yeah, web dev is a job. Yeah, same here. Love to be a game dev, but yep, so see now when they reappear, they're coming straight down. Before, what was happening, it was setting it to the position, the variables that I use when the player stores, so I'd not moved the player, so it was still defaulting to 0, 0. It's appearing up here and then running on the top before it fell down. So well, we've made a little bit of progress. That's all I have time for at the moment, so I'll probably be streaming I think it'll probably be tomorrow lunchtime will be the next stream. So thanks for stopping by and staying here, Sticks and Scaffles. It's been nice, and I will catch you both later.